So I am super excited to introduce our final speaker of the night. So our final speaker of the night, let me just switch my slides, is Jonathan. And his three fun facts are, he was in the live studio audience for a taping of Charles in Charge. He once shared an elevator with Mary J. Blige. And he does not have a case on his phone. Living life dangerously. I also don't have a case on my phone, so I'm with you there. Jonathan, here you go. Share your fuck up.
Thank you, thank you. I like to live dangerously. Okay, so back in 2010, I had my own business called 640K Solutions. And what I did was I contracted myself out to be an IT admin for small businesses across the city, and I would run around and fix things that broke. And I was pretty successful. I had a nice house, I had a fancy sports car, I had toys and gadgets. And then one day I found myself standing face to face with Bruce, who was my partner of about 5 years. And he's about 6'4", bigger than me, blonde, and we're standing in front of our kitchen, which is in the middle of being renovated. So it is completely stripped bare, and there are wires hanging from the ceiling. Our fridge is in the living room. There's a makeshift sink in the corner, and there is our oven against one wall, kind of like the lonely appliance in an empty room. And it was sort of indicative of how I was feeling. So I look at him and say, "We have to talk." And he turns to me and he's like, "You're right, we do." And I think, oh my God, does he want to break up too? Because that would be amazing. Like, he could do the breaking up, and then I wouldn't be the bad guy, and this is great. This is going to be best case scenario. So I say, "You go first." And he turns to me and says, "I have cancer." And like, this is not the way this is supposed to go. I am supposed to leave, and how can I leave someone who is just diagnosed, and like, how is that gonna look? So I give him a hug and I say, "We'll get through this." And he starts chemo and radiation, and I go out and get a $300 a month office, just a small one, so I can get out of the house. And then about a year later, his hand stops working, and the cancer has moved into his brain. And so he starts another round of chemo and radiation, and I go out and get a $900 a month office. And it was like really cute. Like, there was a waiting room at the front for all the clients who would never come see me because I went to see them. And there was a big long desk for my part-time bookkeeper, and I had an office over here for the technicians that I hadn't hired. And then there was a big room up front for me and my grand ideas. A little while later, we get the diagnosis that this is now terminal. So I figure, okay, I have to double down. I need to grow this business. I need to figure out a way to have dependable, reoccurring revenue coming in. Something needs to change. So I decide that the way to do that is to become an MSP, or a managed service provider. So for those of you who don't know, an MSP will come into your office and they will install a suite of monitoring tools on your network. And then, if something breaks, I would get an alert and I could go and fix it before the client even knows or picks up the phone, and all for a monthly fee. So I decide to invest thousands of dollars a month into a suite of tools to make this happen. So I get monitoring, backup, file sharing, email, antivirus, firewall, you name it. And with no real plan on how I'm gonna make this money back, but I know you have to spend money to make money. So I get all these tools, and in theory, they're all supposed to work really, really well together. And in reality, they are held together with hopes and prayers and duct tape. And I finally get this set up and installed at a client's, and I switch it on, and immediately I'm bombarded with alerts. And I start getting hundreds and hundreds of alerts a day. And it's just like, this person's logged in, someone's logged out, backup is starting, antivirus is running, something's crashed. This is just an informational message. Lucy in accounting wants to get on Facebook. Like, it was just never ending, and I was drowning in this sea of alerts. And then kind of through this sea of noise emerged Robin Robbins. And Robin Robbins owns a marketing firm, and her clients are small IT businesses just like mine. And what Robin Robbins will do for you is she will help you tap into the rich oil wells of recurring revenue of your existing clients and the clients she's going to help you get. So $3,000 later, I find myself standing in the lobby of the Gaylord Opryland Hotel and Convention Center in Nashville, Tennessee, for the annual Robin Robbins Conference. And this place is massive. And my days are spent having, breakfast and lunch with strangers and doing networking things, then going to all these seminars and inspirational things and product information sessions and all these things. And on our last day, we're ushered into this new room, and it's huge. And on the stage to the left is a brand new, sparkling white BMW. And so we get seated, and the lights go down, and then when they come back up, and there's a spotlight, and out walks Robin Robbins with her pale ivory skin and her bright blue eyes and her shocking red hair. And she introduces herself in the seminar, and then she ends up giving this car away to the merchant who made the most money that year. And it was almost $1 million. And I thought, I'm gonna win that car one day. And I am going to make $1 million one day. So she finishes up, the lights go down, and when they come back up again, this man takes the stage. And he's a little bit older than me, really well-dressed, really fit, and really cute, so I'm immediately interested. And he says, I used to have my own business. And I'm like, yeah, I have my own business. And he's like, I had the house and the car, and I had a spouse, and I had all the toys and gadgets. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I got. And he says, and then I put a ton of long hours and a ton of money into growing my business. And I'm thinking, yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing. And as I looked around the room at these middle-aged, pudgy, pot-bellied men with pocket protectors, and then I look back at this cute guy on stage, I'm like, he gets me. He's talking to me. This is good. And then he says, and I failed, and I lost everything. And I start to think about all the money that I have been spending, and I start to feel sick in my stomach. And then he says, but I figured out a new way to work, and I wrote a book about it, and it became a bestseller. And now I travel around the country, and I tell people how they can work smarter, and I can help them build their business. And I think, okay, so if I fall flat on my face, I write a book and peddle it at trade shows. That's totally doable. So he finishes his story, and it's very inspiring, and it's so uplifting. And then they bring a couple more people on stage, and they tell very positive and uplifting stories. And the lights come up, and we leave, and I'm feeling really energized. And as we're walking out the door, they hand us a contract, and I take that, and I walk back to my hotel room. And I sit down, and I replay the events of the past couple days. And I've had 3 days of people telling me, you can do this. You're worthy of this. We will help you. We will support you. And I'm feeling energized, and I'm feeling inspired, and I'm feeling supported for the first time in years. And as I look down at the Robin Robbins contract with its annual commitment of $20,000, I know what I have to do. I have to break up with Bruce and I have to find a new line of work. And so I went home, and within a few months, I had a new place to live. And within a few years, I had wound down my business and started baby steps into a new career in education and learning design. And that's where I am today. So, thank you. I know it's really heavy, like what kind of questions do you ask after that, but. Oh.
What's your biggest learning out of all that?
I would say, number one, I did not trust my gut, and I did not follow through with my gut. That was a huge one. And the other one was I kept focusing on my business and was like, something's not working in my business, and it needs to change, and something needs to be different, and it needs to change. But it was my life, and I put all that blame on the business instead. He actually went on for another 5 years, and then eventually, a couple of years ago, it caught up to him, and he passed. Boy, what a downer for the last, jeez.
But did you sign up for the Robbins Robin?
I did not, well, I signed up initially for their monthly, there was like $100 a month kind of thing. That's how they get you. And then, but I actually called a friend when I was there, and he was like, do you have $20,000? I'm like, not really. And he's like, and if you did, what would you do with that? And I'm like, a lot more things. So that helped. Yeah.
How do you design your learnings differently after this experience that you've gone through?
I don't know if it's because of this, but I try to have a very empathetic design to my learning. So the things I design are customer first or user centric, and I've experienced sometimes where some places or some colleagues are like, we have this amount of information and we have to get this out, and that's all they're concerned about with building a course or building learnings. And I've kind of, I had a really big lesson in empathy, and so I have more of an empathetic lean, if that makes sense.
Do you ever think about what your life would have looked like had you broke up with him that day in the kitchen? Was it the kitchen?
Yeah, a lot.
Or do you think that's just like an area you don't want to?
No, I mean, I've had a lot of therapy, so it's fine now.
Fair.
Not even joking. Well, the one thing that did happen was after it was all over, I fell apart, I burned out, and I fell into a huge depression, and I couldn't work for a while, and I did end up losing everything because of that. On the flip side, where I am right now is my life is amazing, and I'm really happy with it, so it's a bitter pill to swallow that I had to go through that to get here, but yeah, I try not to go back there, because I spent a lot of time in that space. Yeah, I think so, maybe. I've actually been, I do storytelling as well, and it's very cathartic. These stories are coming out because of that, so it might happen. Cool. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. That was awesome. Awesome. I just want to say a huge thank you to Jonathan for sharing his story. It's definitely a tough one to share. Thank you, all of you, for your great questions. And thank you to all of our speakers tonight. So that wraps up the speaking portion of Fuckup Nights. So let's give a round of applause to all our incredible speakers.